To knit striped miniature hats, you need at least 2 colors of yarn, and it's important that the yarn is the same size. So I'm using worsted weight size 4 yarn, and both these yarns are the same size. This will ensure that my hat has an evenness throughout. You want a miniature knitting loom, a loom hook, a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and we're going to decorate our hats with a miniature pom-pom. And we'll put the links in the description box for how to make a miniature loom and how to make a miniature pom-pom. Once you've got those things together, we can get started. You're going to begin by taking your first color and making a slip knot. Put that loop on any prong along your miniature knitting loom. Don't pull it out too tight. You want a bit of movement there. This loop becomes the first loop on your loom, so you will actually use it. You can pull your little tail to the inside, and then you can begin wrapping. We're going to wrap our yarn in a counterclockwise method by putting a loop around every single prong. I find it easier to keep my finger on the yarn in between the prongs to kind of keep control of it. You want to wrap loosely because you don't want to make your loops so tight that you have trouble getting them off when it comes to the knitting part. So go ahead, wrap in a counterclockwise method around every single little prong on your miniature knitting loom. Once you've got back to the beginning and you've got a loop on every single prong, you want to go around a second time. So continue wrapping all the way around every single prong until there are 2 loops on every prong. Once you have 2 loops on every prong, you can bring your yarn to the front and hold it with a finger. Grab your loom hook and you're going to start pulling the bottom loops up and off over top of the first loop. So you're going to start with your slip knot, and that's going to go up and over top of the loop. You can keep your short tail to the inside. And you're going to work by taking them off in a clockwise direction. So you're going now in an opposite direction than you did the actual wrapping. You're going to pull every single bottom loop up and over top of the top loops off of every prong in a clockwise direction. And once you've got them all off, you're going to go around a second time by wrapping yarn in a counterclockwise direction to make sure you've got a new loop on every hook, a new loop on every prong, and then you're going to knit those ones off as well. So we're going to knit 2 full rows of our first color. Once you've knit 2 full rows of your first color, you can snip your yarn. You don't need very much tail, but enough to tie a knot with. Grab your second yarn color, and we're simply going to tie the 2 strands together. So you want to line up both ends and tie them together in a simple little knot. Once you've got that knot established, you can pull it back towards the loom and then gently pull on both ends so you tighten it. Don't pull your loops up and off of your prongs. And then you can pull those short tails into the inside, get them out of your way, and you can begin wrapping your yarn just like you would if you hadn't even changed colors. And we're going to push that little knot to the back eventually. But for now, you can continue wrapping in a counterclockwise direction. You can knit off this row, and then you can do a second row in the same color. So remember, we're going to knit going in the opposite direction. So we're going in a clockwise direction now. You're pulling the bottom loops, which are the red ones, up and over top of the top loops, which are now yellow. That's going to be another knit row of red, and then the next 2 rows are going to be yellow. Once you've knit 2 full rows of your second color, you can snip your working yarn. Notice that your changed colors, so your knots and your 2 extra strings, should be pulled to the middle This way they won't show on the outside and you can just weave them in later. And since this is just sort of a decorative small hat, it doesn't need to be comfortable. So you can grab your first color or you can grab a third color and you're going to join doing the same thing. You're going to put both ends together, hold both of your strings together, and create a knot. You can pull that knot as close back to the prongs as you can, and then gently tug on both ends to tighten your knot. And then you can continue wrapping. Your knot and your two little tails will end up in the middle, and you can wrap 2 more rows of this color or knit 2 full more rows of your next color and then change again. I like to make these little miniature hats about 10 rows in total. So once you've knit, changing colors every few rows, about 10, then we will fasten off and we'll add our pom-pom. Once you've finished knitting approximately 10 rows in your alternating colors, it's time to cast off. So we're going to snip our yarn. We're going to grab our yarn needle and thread up that tail. And we're going to begin by picking up the first loop on that prong, pull it right up off the prong and pull your yarn through it. Then you're going to pick up the next one, and we're going in a clockwise direction, just as though we were still knitting. Try to make sure you only get one at a time. And you're going to work your way all the way around, picking up each loop on your needle, pulling the tails through it, and making sure it's completely off your loom. Once you've got your last loop, you can pull the whole thing up and off your loom and begin cinching the top shut. And just before you get it completely closed, I like to take my needle and go through the first few loops again, maybe the first three or four. That will close in the little gap. You can cinch the whole top of the hat nice and tight, and then pull your yarn through the center and into the middle underside of your hat. Then you can make a little knot. So we're on the inside of our hat. You can make yourself a little knot. That'll keep your yarn from unraveling. You do it a second time if you've got slippery yarn. Then you can weave your tail in a few times back and forth. And trim any excess. You've also got these tails from where you changed your yarn color. So you can do the same thing. You can weave in your tails a little bit. I like to pick up a few loops, stick both my tails through there, and just pull them in. You don't need very much. Then you can trim the excess. Do that for all of your color change tails, and also for the short tail that began the whole thing. So you can pick up loops around the edge, around the inside edge of your hat. Don't pull too tightly, because you want to be able to keep that nice stretchy brim. Weave it in a few times and trim any excess. Once you've woven in and trimmed all of your little tails, you can turn your hat right side out and admire your striping. The last thing we're going to do is add a little tiny miniature pom-pom to the very top of our miniature hat. You're going to take both strings, so both ties and your yarn needle, and one by one you're going to pull one down onto the inside of your hat, and then on the other side of the middle you're going to pull in the second one. Flip your hat inside out, and you should have both your ties coming out in two different locations. You can just knot the two ends together, nice and tight, and trim the ends. And there you go. One adorable miniature striped hat with a miniature pom-pom.